there. Thanks for joining. This is Seneca Waugh with your Clear Next Step. Today is our March 24th, 2020 Daily Connections call. We've been having a little bit of tech challenges here, but the opening remarks for today are still, our attempt is to record these and share them with you. We are so glad that you are taking the time to participate in these discussions. We are hosting calls every single day at 1:15 Central Standard Time. It's 1:15 to 1:45. It's just 30 minutes Central Standard Time every weekday, where we have a chance to connect with each other as humans, to look each other in the eye, to exchange positive ideas and connect with each other, and hopefully to walk away with a couple of tips or two. And we're doing this in support of, or in spirit of, your Clear Next Steps continuing mission to make our work days better, even better, right? So that we can have the ability and the time and the desire to create better communities. Better communities where we live and be able to contribute to those. So this is Seneca Waugh. Here are our opening remarks. I usually record a little bit and then I'll turn off the record and open it up for discussion. But these opening remarks that I wanted to share today is really around gaining perspective. The reality is that your perspective, my perspective, is not the only perspective. And this was sparked by a call I had, not a call, a moment that I had this morning. So I woke up this morning because of the last thing that I read last night. My opening thought this morning was, wow, I still don't get where he's coming from. And the he in this story is a colleague of mine, someone I've known for a while, and we work together just fine. And I have a lot of respect for him, and we're friends. And I have nothing against the guy. I just, on this particular topic, I don't understand. I don't understand his perspective. I don't see where he's coming from. And I realized that I have been really, really intentional about perspective over the years. I've been really, really careful about making sure that I seek to understand someone else's perspective, that I really go out of my way to see where they're coming from. And I got to thinking about this and realized that this is intentional, and this is a technique that maybe we don't all share, but man, we really need to right now. Because without these tips and without thinking about someone else's perspective, we run the risk of going absolutely sideways. And it can get really bad in a hurry. So we've just spent the last several days or more forming our own opinions, reacting or responding to what's going on around us, getting inundated with information. A combination of both information and feelings are blending with our own life journey this far. And that's led us to believe what we believe right now, to think what we think right now, to feel what we feel right now. And each one of us has done this individually, which means we've all got different perspectives. Each one of us has reached our own conclusions individually, which means each one of us has a different set of perspectives. So examples, working from home. There are some who are like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to work from home, and they get to work from home. And there's some going, I can't imagine working from home. I like the simplicity and the convenience of the office and the colleague relationships that I have. Some people are thinking, school, a little bit of an extra break, and they're delighted by this. They're relieved by the reprieve. And others who really, really love school and really love being there, either as teachers and faculty and administrators supporting the students, or as students embracing that love of learning, or being surrounded by their friends, right? There are some who really love it and they're missing it. I think about those who are a little bit fearful about what are they going to miss and what happens to their grades. I think about the seniors who are going to be, looking at this, possibly missing out on some of the last few weeks of their senior year. So we've all got these different perspectives, maybe working from home. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine how I'm possibly going to get any work done because my kids are here. Or, oh my gosh, I get to work from home and my kids are home too. I get to see them. Right? All these different perspectives. And you don't know that your perspective is the same one shared by the person that you're talking to. There is an impact to our daily life. Some of us have had our daily lives impacted absolutely profoundly. We've lost a primary source of income. We don't know where the next paycheck is coming from. Things are materially different. And some are we're responding with the corporate structure that's around us. Some are responding in a way that says, hey, this is just a little bit disruptive, but mostly my day is the same. Some of us are disrupted by significant events, or the health factor is very heavy on some people's mind. They already have loved ones who have compromised health systems, or they themselves feel compromised in some way, and so there's fear and there's a concern there. And some are healthy and saying, you know what, I'm one of those people who can help, and I'm glad to be able to help. Again, these are all different perspectives. They're all different perspectives. And what I want us to do is realize that your perspective that you've spent some period of time thinking about is not the same as the person you're talking to. And if we don't stop to realize that, we run the risk of going absolutely sideways. So here are the tips, 5 simple tips. The first one is to own your perspective. Acknowledge what you're thinking, acknowledge what you're feeling, and figure out where it came from. What are you feeling? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Are you afraid? Are you irritated? Are you mildly inconvenienced? Right? Name it. Give voice to your feelings. I'm not telling you it's not valid. I'm not asking you to not feel what you're feeling. I'm asking you to name it. I'm asking you to say, okay, I have this feeling and here's why. Here's where it's coming from. Look at the sources of your feelings. Is it a perpetual escalation in your own house that's causing you to not be able to think objectively in a particular moment because there's all that screaming or that yelling in the other space? Are you stymied by technology and you're frustrated by that? Are you fearful? Have you just read something that is a source that really has you troubled? Name it, own it, and figure out where it's coming from, because I think that will help you get your arms around it. The second one is don't assume. Do not assume that the other person is coming from the same perspective that you are. Avoid starting any conversation assuming that the person or persons involved are coming from the same place you are, because the reality is that they're not. So don't assume, don't start a conversation by saying, hey, can you believe they've done this? Or, hey, have you noticed how irritating it is that, right? And certainly not if it's going to be a negative. But even in the positive, we still have to be cautious. Hey, didn't you see how wonderful XYZ is? Just be aware that they may not be coming from the same place you are. Tip 3, seek to understand. This phrase has been around for decades, for hundreds, for centuries, right? Seek first to understand. Instead of telling someone else where you're coming from, or heaven forbid, telling them where they're coming from, why don't you try asking? Learn about their journey, learn about their lens by listening. They likely have some piece of their story that they can share that will give you better perspective and help you adjust your own perspective and your own insight. Tip number 4 is to find consensus where it matters. So it turns out that collegial relationships do not require 100% agreement. And in fact, in any conversation where we've got 2 or more people, we are not going to agree 100% of the way, 100% of the time. That's okay. We don't have to. What we need to do is find where we can find common ground. What does matter in this? What do we agree on that matters for this moment that allows us to move forward as friends, as colleagues, as coworkers, as cohabitants in the same living space? What do we agree on that allows us to move forward? And the last one is avoid escalating, especially if you've named a fear and it's already growing, or an emotion that is a negative emotion that's already high. Or if you are finding that consensus is not there and you're having a real hard time reaching that agreement, don't escalate. Don't use inflammatory language. Don't allow yourself to get spiraled out of control. Even when your emotions get high, breathe deeply. Take a deep breath. Step away if you need to. Take a deep breath of take a sip of your beverage, look away, focus on something else, say a prayer, whatever you need to do to get mastery. And for heaven's sakes, don't put any of that escalated language into writing on any of your social media platforms or in an email or in a thing you can't take back. So there you have it, my tips. Simple tips, my friends, simple tips on ways to remember that your perspective is not the only perspective. Own your perspective. Don't assume the other person is sharing it. Seek first to understand where they're coming from. Find consensus where it matters and avoid escalating. I hope these have been useful to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the rest of the conversation goes.